Meet Connor, an American who lived in China for 16 years. He is married to a Chinese wife and works in manufacturing. Connor shared how Chinese work culture is the opposite of the American one, the biggest difference between North and South China, and whether living as an expat in China is expensive. I'm Max Chernov. Zouba.
Can you say in Chinese one bad thing for you about China?
就是说，在中国这边生活的话，就可能是最好的某一个方面，可能是就是说做生意，就是在这边做事情的话，就是有一种活力，有一种就是说感觉，就是说这个事情是可以实现的，可以做的。然后就是说碰到任何一个问题还是生意的这个机会，人家都是想着啊，马上就是他们会转变他们的思想，就是说怎么去做。怎么去达到，怎么去完成，所以这个是比较好的一个方面。So like in China, like when you have an opportunity or a problem or a business chance, basically it's not what are the problems, it's the first thing is you switch over in your head to how do we do it, how can we make it work, and there's this kind of energy, how do we get it done? And it's a little different. I mean, I remember like I was working for a startup here. And I told my wife, yeah, they're going to close it down. I'm going to look for a new job. And she said, her first thought is, oh, you're closing your company. That's a great opportunity. You know what you can do? You developed all these great products. You should think of a way to take that skill.
Nice.
So it's, you should open your own company. And it's
Positive,
the first...
Positive attitude.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to understand these people like my wife grew up in a one-room farmhouse with no electricity. They didn't have like a stove. They just had fire that they cooked over a wok. They had an outhouse, and it's like she started working at 18. She was too poor to go to college, and she was making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in real estate. Bought multiple houses, and yeah, I mean their expectations for life just went like it's a meteoric rise.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's natural. Like her brother, again, he went from the same background, and now he opened his own company, has 30, 40 people, goes to, exhibitions in Malaysia, Thailand, all over Asia. In some ways, it's normal to be positive, but it's still a really impressive, attribute to have. So even if, the economy is now not fantastic, people are still very positive and trying to understand, okay, what can I do? What are the opportunities? Yeah. And when they have an opportunity, they really go out and, try to make it happen. It's, as my, our plant manager was saying, you want someone to work overtime, let's say in the US, and you say, hey, I'll pay you double time. Let's go. In China, it's like, double wage, oh, amazing. Can I work 2 more hours?
Yeah.
Do you have any more time to do? So maybe not big on work-life balance, but yeah, they want to succeed, that's for sure.
As an American, did you have any misconceptions back then when you were in college about China?
I'd studied China history and politics and stuff a bit, but you still have this conception of, little backwards and... But I'd never been out of the country, really.
Yeah.
And then you come to Beijing, and it's like 30 million people.
Yeah,
and
mind-blowing, probably.
Every day they're knocking down this street and building a new so it's like the energy and the way things moved, it was really, I came from a small town relatively, so very different.
It's a drastic change when you're young, you're from a small town in the US, and you come to Beijing. It's like, probably.
I'd been out of the country once, to Ireland, and I'd been on a plane like 3 times.
Okay.
And then I came to China, and I just culture shock, ridiculous. Yeah. It was horrible.
Well, what was the biggest culture shock, or the biggest memory from that time for you?
The number of people. Okay. You go from a city with 100,000 people to a city with 30 million people, and just completely different. And 2005, China is a lot different than China now. Yeah. 20 years ago, the amount of development, it's Beijing is entirely changed. It's very different.
19 years past, it's probably a different country. It's
yeah, it's completely,
it depends on the city, but maybe Beijing less, but let's say Shenzhen 19 years ago.
You understand, Beijing, they knocked down half the city. I lived inside the 3rd Ring Road, which is central Beijing.
Yeah.
And I lived there for 8 months. I literally got lost in the neighborhood I lived 8 months for, because nothing was the same. Everything was knocked down and rebuilt.
How Chinese react when they hear you're from the US originally? What's the reaction?
I try not to say it so much anymore, because it immediately descends into discussions of politics. And So half the time I just say I'm from Canada, because then they just there's nothing to follow up. They don't know anything. They don't know anything about Canada. So you say, oh, okay, it's cold. Yes, it's cold. Okay. If you go to the U.S., it's immediately but this and that, and they start talking about. There's still even a lot of sensitivity about, like, have you ever heard about that when the U.S. bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade during the NATO war with Serbia?
Yeah, of course.
So even now, there's a very long memory about things like this, and like world police and all this kind of stuff. So it's a lot of people still like Americans, but it's more politicized than it used to be, I think.
Even on a just a human interaction level, like on a basic level. So if you talk to like a taxi driver,
they wouldn't say they hate you or something. I mean, they're never going to attack you for being American. So I mean, I think it's just, I think Chinese, they love to discuss politics in some ways, to talk about, because actually I think one nice thing about China is it's a much more literate society in some ways than the US. Like, people value reading and knowledge a lot. You have the Confucian heritage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so people, like, they love to talk about something they know about, okay? Because they want to feel like a knowledgeable person.
Yeah.
That's a Confucian society. That's anyway. Yeah. Maybe I'm leaning too heavy on that, but it's, for them, I think it's something they enjoy, to talk about something they know about. And so people like to talk about all kinds of topics like this. Yeah. So for me, it's just, I'm just not so interested into it. China, I think, is friendlier to foreigners than quite a few Asian countries. So they really had like a little small artist community here. So they have some people doing like custom pottery and painting and stuff. Yeah. And the government kind of turned it into a little bit of a tourist attraction. They opened some restaurants, some coffee shops here. Yeah. They have a pharmaceutical school across the way and a big industrial park. So a lot of people come here. The bosses of the local companies come here and have lunches and things like that.
Is it still Guangzhou?
Guangzhou is massive. Yes, this is still Guangzhou. Okay. You can drive 2 hours that way and it's still Guangzhou.
Very cozy.
Yeah.先坐一下，可以。
没那么早啊。
我知道，不会吃。先坐一下，喝点茶。
Are you into Chinese food?
Yes. Though I don't like southern food as much as I like northern food and fooding from over there. But southern Guangdong has some really nice stuff.
What's your favorite?
Dim sum.
Dim sum.
I mean, it's a family tradition. So every weekend, my wife, we bring her family and her relatives, and we always go out for some dim sum place. The place where we live is sort of like the homeland. It's the most famous center of Cantonese food cuisine. So some nice stuff there. What I love is, like, you go to the west and the northwest, it's like Turkic. So they have some awesome, like, flatbreads and lamb and very, very nice stuff.
Like Xinjiang food, like
Xi'an has fantastic dumplings and like fresh made noodles.
Noodles, yeah.
So I tend to like northern food a little bit more.
This one is amazing, but spicy, but
yeah, it's different. The pork as well, I love it. So the nice thing about Sichuanese food is it's like, they call it ma. So la ma.
Yeah,
it's all spicy, but it's
Sichuan pepper, huh?
Yeah.
What's that again?
It's Sichuanese pepper. It's like it's almost like a little numb. Like your mouth feels a little bit like tingly.
What do you start understanding about America or being American after living abroad, after living in China for many years?
When I was growing up, I always kind of downplayed, there was always the idea that you downplay a little bit cultural differences, but there really are cultural differences. And I had, when I was growing up in the US, and friends with Americans, right? Yeah. But in China here, UK, Spanish, German, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean friends. And there really are different ways of thinking, different ways of like approaching problems. And that's actually why I really like working in my company, because, I work with Israelis, Danish, Belgian, Canadian, other people. And it's nice to kind of, really there are some different perspectives on things when you come from a different country. And I realized that I'm very American in the way I view things. I didn't maybe think so, but yeah.
So it's like not to underestimate the actual differences, because in the US, the culture is like, okay, we're all Americans, like different background, different rules, but all Americans. But people actually are different. Like they have similar values all over the world, like, I don't know, family values and stuff.
Yeah.
But there are still cultural differences that you need to like understand them.
Yeah, cultural differences, yes. Sometimes even like people from different cultures also think in very different ways. I mean, the way we approach problems.
Yeah.
Like the way I approach a problem, in business or in engineering is very different than, my Israeli coworker. And that's good. And that's why it's actually really important to have some diversity in a company. But it's quite funny sometimes. Just like the perspective on problems and issues can be just a completely different way. Just the way you approach things.
Can you give an example? What would be the different approach for you and for your Chinese colleagues?
My Chinese colleagues, like let's say we approach a problem, we have an issue. For them, it's more about, I believe the first thing is to do more action to, they want to be proactive, go this, do that. Mm-hmm. For us, for me, and like for my Canadian colleague, it's maybe more of, hold on, sit down, wait a little bit. Maybe a little less biased action, I think sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for them, for Chinese, it's like more action.
Yeah, I mean, they want to go kick down the door, get started, and sometimes it's hold the horses, guys. Wait a second. Let's just sit, and they're impatient to get going.
Yeah.
This is the case.
Do you feel like restricted?
In general, I would say 95% of your everyday life, it doesn't really impact you. So I mean, it's different than the U.S. There is a difference, but for most people in their daily life, it's not going to impact them. I think the focus in China is more on economic security, especially because of the past they had, how poor people were so recently. So I think most Chinese people are more focused on that aspect.
Yeah.
Being economically secure, being able to, have a nice life. That's I think is kind of the focus here.
Yeah, I kind of feel similar living in Singapore. I think like first your phone knows about you more than like the government. Like you basically feed all your data. It doesn't matter if it's Chinese apps or American apps. You feed all your life to your phone.
Yeah. One thing people don't really understand is there's huge cultural differences between provinces in China. Like business, not just food, but like not just language either, but like the way you do business. Very different in Guangdong than it is in the north.
What's the typical for south of China?
The south, people tend to be a little less aggressive.
Yeah.
A little more chill. Yeah. It's just one of the I have a lot of great friends from the north, and a lot of my buddies are from Dongbei, which is like the northeast of China. But they're more like more aggressive people in terms of business and in life, and
Right. Yeah.
like a little more confrontational when you do business with them and things like this. But the south, it's one of the nice things. The north is more about like a little more relationship heavy, like drinking, lots of baijiu, lots of go to KTV together. The south is a little more business. It's not so heavy on the drinking culture. It's a little more, let's make money. A little more results oriented. So I mean, that's the nice thing about working in the south is you don't have to drink. Because my wife was selling houses to very, very wealthy people.
Okay.
And so I knew a bunch of like people that had public companies. Like this guy had $100 million or something like this.
Yeah.
And he would walk around in flip-flops and an old t-shirt. And he didn't care. My roommate in grad school, his dad was he was like the provincial CEO for China Mobile, which is like a big SOE here, state-owned company. And he took us out, his dad's friends took us out to lunch, and there were 2 minivans full of VPs from China Mobile. And we went to this huge restaurant, and like everyone's wearing a suit, and probably 1,000 RMB a person, and just pomp and circumstance. And then like that guy, he runs a huge industrial concern. He's got like 4,000 or 5,000 workers, and him and one of his buddies would go to a local place where they eat crawfish and drink beer. Connor, come on, let's go have 5 or 6 beers.
Yeah.
It's just it's a little just more casual, more about results. You don't, and the drinking culture is really, really a big part of it, even now.
So if you want to make business in China, do business in China, you kind of have to.
In the north, if you're in Shandong or the north, you have to.
Yeah.
Must.
Yeah.
I actually know a guy a Hong Kong gentleman, him and his brother work in appliances, and his brother died because they were having a drinking party with one of their suppliers in Shandong, and he died.
Wow. But why is the reason? So not the dying thing, but why you have to drink? So you need to show yourself, like true yourself, like to open up, and they see who you are.
In vino veritas is like the Latin saying, right? In wine, truth. And this may be why the South you don't need to do that so much, because the South has kind of a stronger institutional structure. because it's one of the first provinces that opened up. So maybe a little more further along with the legal system. Like everything here is actually super convenient to do business here. Like opening a company, like going to the tax bureau, it's actually pretty fast. And I mean, there's always, hiccups, but I would say compared to Europe, it's probably much easier to do business here. And so they don't need to rely on drinking but I mean, it still happens. I would say sometimes business in China, like difference between provinces, it's more like Europe and where you have different countries. Like the difference is that pronounced.
Yeah.
They all see themselves as Chinese, very much so.
Yeah.
But there's language and real cultural differences.
How Chinese react then when you start speaking Chinese?
When I'm on the phone, they usually don't know I'm a foreigner.
Okay. So your accent is also like very...
I have a good accent, but it's also like, you understand, there's so many non-native Mandarin speakers in China.
Okay.
Because like Cantonese people actually in Guangdong, most of them, Mandarin's not their first language.
Yeah.
So I can get away by that.
But people on the street, like when you I don't know, buy stuff, they surprised or they used to it?
They used to be shocked. Now it's kind of, I think it's because like social media, like there's a lot of like foreigners on like Chinese social media, where they kind of show off fluency, and some people that it's really impressive. Like they speak perfect Mandarin, they speak perfect Shanghainese or like all local dialects. So I think it's somehow lowered the surprise and raised the expectations.
Yeah.
So they think now that you speak really good Mandarin, that's normal.
I remember like my first time in China 10 years ago in Shanghai. So I actually like was walking around the streets of Shanghai and people come to ask for a selfie. Like 10 years ago. I don't know if it's the case now or not.
It really depends where you were. Like I've lived in some really small towns in China, and like you're just like an alien. I remember my first year in Beijing, I had a Haitian American, like a girl from my school that studied abroad with me.
Yeah.
And like people would come up here and touch her hair and touch her braids, and just never seen it.
Yeah.
In Huadu, somewhere like here, it's pretty out of the way. So yeah, you get stared at a lot, But
sometimes people stop you to take a picture, but Jerry, they're tourists.
I may be too big and scary to take a picture with. But if you start to chat with somebody, definitely they want a picture with you. Yeah.
What would be the budget for, let's say, the family of 3, monthly budget to live in Guangzhou?
As an expat, I would say probably spend at least 20, 25.
Yeah, minimum.
20-25,000
renminbi.
Yeah, so let's say like $4,000 a month.
Okay.
It's a rent and everything.
Including rent.
Yeah. I mean, again,
So
you're not
rent
going to get a
would be
huge
like-
place with that. You're going to get a small apartment.
So the rent would be 2K, 1K, 2K?
So like here, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Like I pay $300 a month.
Literally,
rent.
At the middle of nowhere, huh?
Yeah.
So if he's in Baiyun, which is a more central district, it's probably like $1,000. If you're in downtown, $2,000, maybe more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as bad as like New York or something like this, but yeah, food is relatively cheap if you don't go outside to Western restaurants all the time. Transport is very cheap. You can buy quite cheap physical goods. Here, I don't have a car because I can order a cab. It comes there within 2 minutes, and it's like $2 to get to the company. The U.S. to walk down the block, it's like take down the block, it's like $20, and you have to wait 15 minutes. So the convenience is just insane here.
As someone not from China, like after 16 years in China, do you feel like home? Do you feel like fully integrated?
I will never be a Chinese person.
Yeah.
I probably this coming year I'll do my permanent residency.
Yeah.
My wife is Chinese, my son is Chinese, but it's just not on the cards. It's not you don't become Chinese by virtue of living here or working here.
Yeah.
And
even if you're fully integrated, like it's because you look different. Or
it would be easier if I was like Korean or something like this, and I spoke good Chinese. It would be easier to integrate, but yeah, I mean, you're not born here, and Chinese people have that concept that, you're born here, you're Chinese. If you're not, then you aren't. And actually, even overseas Chinese, they view them as Chinese.
yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're born in America, you're Chinese. It's a little ethnic.
But do you travel around China?
Not so much as I used to. I used to travel quite a bit. It's just travel is so convenient that it means a lot of people travel.
Yeah.
And because China has a lot of people, that means a lot. In the main holidays, it's just, you can get 400 million people on the road. So it's, public holidays, I try to stay in my house.
If you go like to, I don't know, to the central China? Do you go by train or you go by car?
Train or fly?
Train or plane? Yeah, train or plane. Yeah,
I mean, it's a big country, okay? It's just to get around by car would be difficult. China is just slightly smaller than the US, you know, by land mass. So I mean, like, it's also like so convenient to take the train or to fly that, yeah, there's no reason not to.
Flights are quite cheap.
Like, I don't have a car in China just because it's so convenient.
Is it easy generally to be healthy, like to eat healthy, to exercise in China overall? Like,
Chinese people like to walk a lot, ride bikes, a lot of
they stretch
exercise.
their legs. That would be if you're in a plane with Chinese, they like walk and stretch and.
But I mean, it's just the problem is like
We like climbing the mountains.
there's a lot of negative things. Like I think they exercise outdoors more, but it's a tough society. There's a lot of stress, long hours. People don't eat super healthy. Eat outside the house a lot. You know, not so many opportunities to exercise. So many diabetes and smoking. It's all a huge problem here. I remember when I was jogging outside in 2010 in Shunda. People looked at me like, "What are you doing?" But now, like every day in my little community, like I walk around and tons of people, you know, going for runs. Marathons are huge in China. Like the marathon business is massive. It's exploded.
Yeah, running is exploding. Yeah.
Cycling too, like everyone, like the sales of high-end cycles and stuff. So upper middle class people, I would say the last like 5 years, maybe a little longer,
upper class
just an
people.
explosion in gyms, cycling,
gyms a lot, huh?
all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a little similar to the U.S. I mean, like in the U.S., it's the kind of a class thing. It's like you have the money and the leisure time.
I think
you exercise more.
it's upper class people with access to sport and everything.
How this 16 years in China shaped your personality?
It's funny because they have this expression. Basically, there's been research done on this. Like if you speak more than one language, you tend to your brain tends to develop, and in brain scans you look slightly more schizophrenic because you can actually have a slightly different personality in different languages.
Yeah.
So I have to say in China, because I was pretty studious, reading, very quiet, and in China it kind of made me a little more outgoing.
I get what you mean. Yeah, you're developing the kind of extension to your personality that you were born with.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm a little. It's a little almost schizophrenic. Like I feel different here than I do in the U.S. It's strange.
Yeah.